Alice Mutai is the CEO of Kenya Engineering Registration Board. She is on my immediate left. Thank you so very much indeed, Alice, for joining us. And next to Alice, we have Dominic Thuku. He is the Managing Director of Homepoint Investment. Thuku, karibu sana to the program.
Thank you.
And of course, next to Thuku, we have Aggrey Wangwe. He's the Marketing Director of iBuild, which is a construction innovation. Thank you very much, Wangwe, also for joining us here. I want to start with you. First of all, I want to hear your views on the Big Four agenda on housing.
Thank you. I'm Alice Mutai, and I would want to make some correction.
Yes.
The CEO of Kenya Engineering Technology Registration Board. It is the regulator for engineering technologists and technicians. These are the members that will carry the work that we are thinking about in the Big Four agenda, and most in the construction industry. The technicians are the people who, as you put it rightly, the rubber meets the road. Those are the professionals that actually do the work. And it is being regulated by the board, the Kenya Engineering Technology Registration Board.
And of course, we know it's not a very old institution, and we'll be coming to you to find out, what are you going to do about the state of housing in this country? Dominic,
yes.
What are your views on the Big Four agenda on housing? What is the role of the private sector?
One thing I can say is that it's a very ambitious project. As you say, that the government is only able to put up around 50,000 units, and now they are talking about building 1 million homes in just 5 years. Yes, it's pretty ambitious, but that's why we come in as private investors. We come in as private developers. We partner with the government in this creation of this job. And also, you have talked about the way they are going to partner with the real estate companies to come up with the 14% of a GDP in this real estate and construction. So we are going to partner with the government in a number of ways in which we can also help the government to achieve this target of 1 million homes. And I do believe if they allow us, we are going to achieve this when we work together. Yes.
As an innovator, what is the role of innovation in ensuring that we as a country achieve this dream?
Thank you. I think there's a lot that innovation can come to play just to make sure that the gap kind of comes closer and closer. Statistics shows that only 15% of Kenyans probably can be able to afford housing through what we call the developer module. So clear maths shows 85% they do it themselves.
Yeah.
So where we see innovation can come in, and that's how iBuild comes through, is how do we give, or rather empower, these homeowners or Kenyans at large, even as they want to take this solution even in their hands. You and me will agree there's a level at which the government can be able to achieve. But if you're able to give a solution that helps out the people who are doing this construction in a more effective and more transparent way, then I think we'll be able to even come close, even pass that 1 million. And mark you, the 1 million target, that's not the deficit. The deficit is 2 million.
So we still have 1 million
exactly
housing units.
Perfect.
Very good. I want to hear from you. We have been talking about 1 million units, in the last 2 or 3 years. But we know for sure that under the Vision 2030, this was the plan actually to be putting up about 200,000 units, of houses, every year in order to fill the shortfall. But we have seen the government has now somehow taken these and is flying with it. I want to hear from you, Mutai. Do we have enough engineers, to ensure that this work is done?
The professionals are in different categories. The engineers, the technologists, and the technicians. Over years, the country has trained all these professionals we have them in the field. Maybe what we would not see is about registration, because the numbers that we see are those ones who have registered with their professional bodies. But out there, we have the professionals, and I believe they can carry
How
this.
many are registered as we speak now?
I will not speak for the engineers. I will speak for the technologists and technicians. We started our registration almost mid-2017.
Oh.
And as we speak, we have 1,000. But we are certain that out there, these professionals who have been trained are over 400,000. So we are certain that they
So
can
this
actually...
is definitely a drop in the ocean.
Yes.
Very well. Thuku, tell me this. Do you believe that the private sector is ready to work with the government, to deliver these units?
As I mentioned on the start, it's a very ambitious project, even for the government. 1 year down the line, I don't know how many has been put up yet by the government. But
We're still at the planning stage.
you are still planning, and 2022 is just around the corner. You have seen people campaigning. So now what we have is companies which have already been on this thing. And therefore, when the government agrees to partner with the private investors, the real estate companies, some of these companies have land already. And all they need is those incentives that will enable them to come with this word affordable. Because we have been building houses, land is there, but now maybe the word that we are looking for here is the issue of affordability. And for you to be able to sell something that is affordable, then even the cost of putting up something must also be low. So the biggest problem now we have is the issue of the problem from the manufacturing, because the raw material to build up a house is very expensive.
Yeah.
The infrastructure are not yet there. Sometimes you build an estate as a private developer, you have to build your own roads because you want accessibility. And you have to transfer this cost of building those roads to your customers. So if the government is able to work with us, or maybe some of the things we need are very little, just infrastructure, sewerage systems, so that we don't have to do them ourselves. And when they do that, we just come and just now transfer the benefit of the subsidies to our clients and those customers. And in due time, we'll be able to hit that target of 1 million.
Wangwe, I want to hear this, and he has brought about, a very interesting question here, which keeps on coming. There are people who are arguing that the government should not be in the business of putting up houses. The government should be in the business of ensuring that there is conducive environment by putting up the necessary infrastructure. We're talking about sewer lines, we're talking about roads and security, and then inviting the private sector to come and put the units, and of course offering other incentives. Do you think the government will succeed when it's talk about putting up these houses itself? Do you think it will?
I think, yes, it can, and also on the other side, it cannot. Let me first begin with the side that it cannot be able to do that. I mean, you come and realize that there's a level to which the government can be able to come and facilitate.
Yeah.
But issues housing, you realize it goes even far beyond just the construction process. There's issues about land. So that in itself probably becomes one of the key things. But I think where I think the government should be able and even take advantage is how do we have the private, public-private partnership to even come and even have some of these solutions even roll down to the benefit of the common mwananchi. And I think I'll speak, for example, what we are doing as iBuild Kenya, partnering, of course, appreciating that we have a body that is able to tell us which plumber is registered, which person is certified, so that we can be able to profile them and they can also be able to be available in the job markets to actually offer this housing. So I think where the government should be able to take advantage is seriously where we are talking about private, public-private partnership. And this should not just limit itself to the brick and mortar kind of way, but also how do you use technology. Leveraging on technology will be able to do more than what you can be able to do probably just, the traditional way. And as iBuild, I think that's the gap we saw. Just to point it out that the problem about housing is not just about raw materials. The chain actors, they're not connected, they're not linked. Right from the material supplier, the workers, the contractors, even the lender, if you
The
need capital to
regulator.
it. So how do you create an ecosystem that all these value chain actors are able to communicate, and therefore you're able to achieve efficiency, transparency, and far beyond it, even accountability. That's what the gap that I built saw, and we're able to create a platform that gives Kenyans this solution in their hands.
Tell me this, when you scan the, the technology and the innovations that we have in the market when it comes to construction, do you see any technology that can help, to reduce the cost of construction in this country? And we know that the cost of construction material, they take up a significant portion, about almost 55% of the total cost. Do you see any innovation that can help to suppress the cost of construction in this country?
I mean, that's a hot debate, but I think starting on innovation on material, we've seen some of the solutions that are out there in the market. Close to 10 years, talking about using EPS as a solution to kind of reduce the cost of construction. And I think that's where this conversation about affordable housing began. But you and me will agree that there's an extent that can be able to be effective. The problem that we have that even brings around the issues about cost of construction is these chain actors, they are not kind of connected. So it becomes very expensive for you even to go and get the right material. It becomes very expensive for you even to go and even look for the workers who actually do this construction. So I think the only problem that has happened, we've limited innovation to only the construction material. But I think processes also, we can do something about that in terms of innovation so that you can achieve efficiency. And that in itself, he will agree with me that it can actually give some of the cost benefit.
Yeah.
So that's one of the key things that I think we kind of missed and only just focus on the product to actually produce it. But what about the process? How does somebody get to get that contractor?
Yeah.
How does that contractor get to get that right material?
And this is where we have regulators, coming into play. I want to hear from you. Then how do we ensure that, the people we are employing, in our construction sites, number one, are qualified and they have the relevant skills?
Sensitization. If it was possible for the contractors as well as all the players in the construction industry, if we understood that for us to do good work, we need professionals, then we wouldn't be employing anyone that is not regulated. But because we have had people working and no regulator for so many years, we had only one for the engineering profession, that is EBK. But that regulator was just regulating the engineers. So for so long, we didn't have any regulator for the technologists and the technicians. And that is why the government saw the need to have this other board that regulates now the technologists and technicians.
Very well. But I mean, you say that you have only managed to register about 1,000, in a market where the figures are about 400,000.
Yes.
So the question is, I mean, for how long can one wait until you have enough registered members, honestly?
It is synergy. Because we have, like NCA, already they started working many years before the board coming in. They have a database of the workers, the skilled workers, the artisans, the craftspersons. So working together, we can now bring those members that they already have for registration, and the numbers will shoot up.
And so what are you doing to ensure that, you bring the other 3,990, and 99 who are not in your data?
That is why we are partnering with iBuild. We want to use that app to communicate, and now we bring them on board.
That's what you plan to do?
Yeah, we are already there.
Yeah. Thuku, tell me please, do you think the government is doing enough to support the private sector in delivering housing in this country?
So far not.
So far, no.
They
It's a
haven't.
harsh verdict, yeah?
Yes, it is, and I can say that with a straight face.
Wow.
Because what happened, in fact, in the course of time, as the government is trying to get revenue and everything, there are some things that have been introduced, taxes, issues of stamp duties. And you know, something like a stamp duty, because it's good when you talk about housing, we start from the bottom, that is land. And land has become a very emotive issue. And
It has always been.
it has been.
That's why actually Kenya went to the war with our colonials.
Yes. So because of that, you realize the land and the issue of bureaucracy, corruptions, there's a lot of the cost that has come into just acquisition of land, plainly from the start.
Yeah.
It will become very high. There is a lot of, when you want maybe for something to be approved, it takes years. It takes a long time. This guy is not there. The workforce is very low. Things that require approval take time.
And also the process is highly bureaucratic,
Very
and you have to
bureaucratic.
go to various agencies.
Yes.
From
And
the
as
National
well-
Construction Authority,
Yes.
to county government, to the land ministry.
Yes. So before even you start the building, the amount of money you have put on the ground. And what has happened is that even most people who are building nowadays does not go even to the regulator first. They start their own building, and in the process they start regularizing as time goes by. And that's why we have some of the issues we have today in land and some property being brought down. Because someone started, you brought your plan to a regulatory body, took years to approve it. Yet maybe you have your loans, you have already picked from the banks, and people have started building. But what I'm saying is the government, there's a lot of legislation that have not cut, so that even the private developer, we are not competitors. Because whenever, at the end of the day, all we are doing is empowering our people to acquire land, and from there, they get their own housing. And when people have affordable housing, because someone, when they have money, they'll buy food, pay rent, and then after that, now that's the time they are able to have liquidity to do the other things, and the economy grows that way because they have high purchasing value. Nowadays, the houses are very expensive because of from the cost of building, and therefore everyone, the money everyone gets or someone gets, it all goes to the rent. So there is a lot of constraint in terms of the purchasing power and liquidity in people's hand. And I think the government has not done enough because we are there. We have been able to acquire land. You have talked today about the acres that have been put under development, and they have seen this only concentrated around towns.
Yeah.
But in the advent of devolution, I don't understand why it has to be only
Focusing on the big towns.
Those only big towns. What happened to a person who has been posted in Garissa? He wants to have a house there. What happened to them?
And that's a valid, concern, and that's why I want to bring Wangwe into this picture.
Yes.
When it comes to efficiency, in the Horn of Africa, we all look up to Rwanda. And we know for sure that, the government of Rwanda has managed to put up a one-stop shop for everything. You want to put up a house, there is a shop for all that. You just go, you give your documents, they are analyzed, they are approved there and there, and you go home. Why is it so hard, to try and bring all these agencies, under one roof, whereby I don't have to go to City Hall for my approvals. Then from there, I go all the way to Upper Hill, to the Lands Ministry. Then from there, I go to the other side of Upper Hill, to the National Construction Authority. Why can't we have a one-stop shop for example, for the construction industry? Is this rocket science, honestly? Wangwe.
For the government, I think that's one of the biggest challenge, either because, yes, there are so many departments that are working towards, the common goal, but whether these departments or these bodies are complementing each other effectively, that becomes where the challenge is. And I think one, it could go probably on, is there goodwill to actually pursue that? Is this problem about housing really a real problem, or it's a political probably agenda or something like that? And I think it goes just to what is it that probably the government will do disruptively so that we can actually unpack some of the bottlenecks that we have on that space. I'm not a government official to really comment on that, but I think we appreciate like a system that you are able to bring everything under one roof. You achieving that is very easy. And I think that's why, as innovators, we looked at it and we say, let it be as easy as even when he wants to do the construction, how will I know where do I get the right fundis? So we're able to partner with the right body, and as Madam Alice has said, we're able to onboard all those half a million skilled workers, so that when he comes, he wants to mobilize a site, he can be able to get, the right people. At the end of it all is, do we have a solution that is working for the common mwananchi? And I think until we're able to reach to that point and even accept, we need to think something disruptive. From our end, I think we stand from a point whereby we've looked at the journey on how people do houses. Yes, beyond just the developer end, but the common mwananchi, how do they construct? What is the pain point they have? And our vision and what we are trying to do is we bring all these stakeholders, even the regulator, being on board, so that when you're saying so-and-so is a mason, who certify that person? You've brought on board the regulator. When you're saying so-and-so is probably an engineer, how will I know that? A common mwananchi will not be able to do that. So slowly, as you're saying, where the government is failing, probably it's giving room for even innovation to come through. And I think what we'll urge is to see more of this kind of partnership, so that even we can be able to facilitate the whole thing. As I believe we want to come in as facilitators, the government also is supposed to be a facilitator. At the end of it all is, it should be able to make the process less painful, as you've just pointed out. Not
punitive.
Exactly.
Mutai, I want to hear from you. When you look at us as a country, I mean, we are so fond, of coming up with different regulators, in a certain industry. For example, in this industry, you have the National Lands Commission with its own set of challenges. You have the Ministry of Lands. You have the County Lands Board. Okay? You have the Engineers Board. And now you have the Kenya Engineering Registration Board, for heaven's sake. I mean, why do we need to have all these players, in a very small play field? Is it possible to have one super agency that deals with all these, to cut down on red tape and bureaucracy?
I believe it is possible. Where there is a will, there is always a way. But we've lacked that. And if I may go to the engineering profession, we had the challenge of the regulator just regulating a very small percentage of the professionals. You look at the medical field, you will find that they have the regulators for each cadre in the medical area. So what lacked in the engineering one was these other cadres of the professionals. How are we going to take care of them? And I will take you to the stories of houses falling.
Yeah.
Every time it was brought up, we pointed fingers at people. The engineer will say, no, my drawings were good. They will point fingers at the contractor. They will point fingers at the owner. They will point fingers at any other person, but not themselves. Yet it is known that after the engineer has done his work, the people who are left in the field to do the work were actually the technologists and technicians. But there was nobody who could point fingers at them because there was no regulator.
Yeah.
That is why we have this other regulator. And we believe over time we will manage to have one house for the engineering. But for this other land and the county, the everything, all of them are looking for some resource. And interestingly enough, county government was also told, look for your own resources. So they had to think and come with ways to get this money. One of it is definitely having to pay something for the land that they have. It's unfortunate because you shoot the cost of the construction higher because of that.
Tell me, please, I mean, let's go back to last year, when a house collapsed in, and this is where Thuku, I want to hear your comment.
Yes.
When a house collapsed in Huruma, and we know these are major occurrences in this country. This is what NCA said, National Construction Authority, that for them, the only issue certificates during construction process.
Yes.
And that ends their mandate. Then you have the Building Inspectorate Unit, which audits buildings. And then you have the county government, which follow-ups to ensure that you are doing the right things. And then you have the Engineers Board, who ensures that the engineers supervising construction sites are qualified. Don't you think this is where the challenge lies? Because you have so many interested players, but playing in different areas. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think you have a very big point in that. The aspect of having so many players in one game, such that when there is a loss or something happens, everyone has an escape route. Everyone says the other person. And therefore it becomes very difficult to pinpoint where the problem is. So I think the solution would be the time where we'll have one umbrella body in a way that whenever there's an issue or that house collapse, there's no way they'll escape. Because whoever did the inspection or whoever approved it was within that body. And therefore there is no way they'll be able to say it's the other person who is not here. When you go to the other person, they tell you it's the other person, it's this body. And also on that, it will also reduce the cost of putting up houses and generally land. Because, for example, us at Homepoint, we try to sell land that is outside town a little bit. Reason being because you got near an urban center, the stamp duty, simple stamp duty of just transferring land from one owner to the other or buying it, the government will take 4%. So if you have a 15 million house, the government will take 600,000. So
just like that.
Just like that.
And there are no roads.
There are nothing.
There is no
but
security.
The moment you take them, this is a title you want to transfer. They take their cool 4% of whichever value it is. You go to even to the rural area, they will take their 2%. And then after you go there, they still have to tell you now, you have to go to the physical planner. The surveyor also wants his money.
Yeah.
And because of all these very many stops,
Yeah.
the cost will also go up.
Very well.
And now the issue of accountability also become a problem.
Good.
Yes.
Because time is not on our end, we have to wind up. I want to give you 30 seconds, Wangwe, to give us a solution to all these challenges we have to ensure, because at the end of the day, Kenyans must have decent and affordable homes.
Perfect, thank you. I think one of the things that as Kenyans we need to do, we need just to appreciate that there is a very key role that innovations can come and even solve this problem. One of the things that we endeavor to do from IBIL is how do we give a solution to a homeowner that he can be able to actually verify that this contractor is really professional. How can we be able even just to make it less painful even as they do this? We feel strongly that even with this kind of partnership, we'll be able to come and fill some of the gaps that we have. And from our end, we say that if you've not downloaded the app, just try to see what it has for you. We strongly believe that this is one of the key things that will kind of help relieve the pain that people are having during the process of
Thank you
construction.
very much. What are your final comments, Madam Mutai? Yeah, it's you.
Yeah, thank you. we request the media to also come out and sensitize the public about the need for professional registration of all the players so that there is accountability of whoever does anything that is in the construction sector. We also request that as we have a forum like this, you will have any other forums that you can bring on board if you can air it out.
Yeah.
Because I told you one of our challenges has been sensitization.
Very good.
And if we did, I'm sure we would actually have all these people working together.
Asante.
Yeah.
Very well. Alice, Mutai, Dominic, Thuku, and Aggrey Wangwe, thank you so very much indeed for joining us here in the studio to discuss this critical issue of housing.
Thank you.
The
Thank
bottom
you.
line is Kenyans need affordable and decent houses, and we must all deliver. You're watching Business Insight. We are taking a short break, and thereafter we are back with sports. Stay right here.